The tapestry of history is woven with threads of triumph and tragedy, of revolution and evolution. It's a chronicle of humanity's journey, marked by moments that have reshaped the world as we know it. Some of these turning points are grand spectacles etched in our collective memory. Others, quieter yet no less profound, have steered the course of civilizations. In this exploration, we journey back in time to uncover 5 historical events that have left an indelible mark on the world, forever altering the course of human history. Imagine, if you will, the bustling streets of 17th century London, a city teeming with life, commerce, and unfortunately disease. The year is 1666, a time when the bubonic plague still casts a long shadow over England. Now picture this. The early hours of a September morning, the sky ablaze with an eerie, unnatural light. It began, innocently enough, a flicker in a baker's shop on Pudding Lane, but within hours this small spark would ignite a conflagration that would consume London in a fiery inferno.
Driven by strong winds and fueled by the city's densely packed wooden buildings, the Great Fire, as it came to be known, spread with terrifying speed. For 4 days and nights the fire raged, turning day into a terrifying smoky twilight. The flames danced through the narrow streets, devouring everything in their path. The air grew thick with smoke and the stench of burning wood, a suffocating blanket over the terrified city.
Over 13,000 homes, churches, and even St. Paul's Cathedral were reduced to smouldering ruins. The scale of the devastation was immense, leaving thousands homeless and destitute. Yet from the ashes of this tragedy, a new London would emerge. The fire, as destructive as it was, acted as a brutal but effective cleanser. It devoured the plague-ridden slums that had provided fertile ground for the disease, effectively halting its spread. In the aftermath, architects and city planners seized the opportunity to rebuild London with wider streets and buildings constructed of brick and stone. A new era of architecture and urban planning was born. The Great Fire of London serves as a potent reminder of humanity's resilience, our ability to rebuild and innovate, even in the face of unimaginable devastation. It's a testament to the enduring human spirit, forever adapting and evolving, shaping a new future from the ashes of the past. For centuries, women around the world were denied a fundamental right, the right to vote. They were relegated to the sidelines of public life, their voices muted, their contributions undervalued. But the dawn of the 20th century saw the rise of a powerful movement demanding change, a movement for equality and empowerment. The fight for women's suffrage was a long and arduous one, waged on both sides of the Atlantic and beyond.
In the United Kingdom, women like Emmeline Pankhurst and her daughters, Christabel and Sylvia, formed the Women's Social and Political Union, a group that would become synonymous with radical action. The Pankhursts believed in deeds, not just words. They organized marches and demonstrations, disrupted political meetings, and even resorted to acts of civil disobedience, smashing windows and setting fire to mailboxes to draw attention to their cause. Their tactics were met with fierce opposition and often brutal repression. Suffragettes were arrested, imprisoned, and even force-fed when they went on hunger strikes. Yet they persisted, their courage and determination unwavering.
Across the Atlantic, in the United States, women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton were waging their own struggle for the vote. They organized conventions, circulated petitions, and lobbied tirelessly for women's suffrage. Their efforts were met with similar resistance, but they too refused to be silenced. And slowly, their persistence began to yield results.
In 1893, New Zealand became the first self-governing country to grant women the right to vote. This landmark victory sent shockwaves around the world, inspiring women in other countries to intensify their fight for suffrage. The movement gained momentum, and in the years that followed, more and more countries, including Great Britain and the United States, finally granted women the right to vote.
The fight for women's suffrage was about more than just the right to cast a ballot. It was about equality, justice, and the fundamental right of every human being to have a voice in their own governance. In the annals of English history, the year 1066 stands as a pivotal turning point, a year that witnessed the death of a king, the rise of a conqueror, and the birth of a new England. On a crisp October day near the coastal town of Hastings, two armies clashed in a battle that would decide the fate of a nation.
On one side stood King Harold Godwinson, the last Anglo-Saxon king of England, his forces arrayed on a ridge overlooking the battlefield. Facing them, a formidable force led by William, Duke of Normandy, a ruthless and ambitious leader, determined to claim the English throne for himself.
The Battle of Hastings, as it came to be known, was a brutal and bloody affair, a clash of axes, swords and arrows that raged for hours. The tide of battle ebbed and flowed, but a pivotal moment came when King Harold, the Anglo-Saxon king, fell, an arrow piercing his eye. With their leader slain, the English resistance crumbled and William, the Duke of Normandy, emerged victorious.
William's victory at Hastings marked the end of Anglo-Saxon rule in England and ushered in the Norman era. William, now known as William the Conqueror, seized the English throne and set about transforming the country. He established a new ruling class, granted lands to his Norman followers, and imposed Norman laws and customs on the land.
The Norman conquest had a profound and lasting impact on England. It transformed the country's language, its culture, its laws, and its very identity. The Norman French language, spoken by the new ruling class, gradually blended with the Anglo-Saxon tongue, giving birth to the English language we know today. The imposing castles, built by the Normans to consolidate their power, still dot the English landscape, a testament to their enduring legacy. The Battle of Hastings serves as a stark reminder of how quickly the course of history can change on the outcome of a single battle. It's a story of conquest and transformation, of the enduring power of ambition and the lasting impact of a single day on the course of a nation. As the dust settled on the ruins of World War II, a new conflict emerged, one that would cast a long and ominous shadow over the world for nearly half a century. This was not a war fought with tanks and guns, but with ideology and espionage, with a constant threat of nuclear annihilation hanging over humanity.
It was the Cold War, a geopolitical standoff between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, each vying for global dominance. At its core, the Cold War was a clash of ideologies. The United States, championing democracy and capitalism, faced off against the Soviet Union, a communist state promoting a centrally planned economy and a one-party system.
This ideological divide ran deep, shaping the political landscape of the world and fueling proxy wars, espionage, and a relentless arms race. Both sides amassed vast nuclear arsenals, creating a constant state of fear and uncertainty. The threat of nuclear war became a terrifying reality, shaping the lives of millions and influencing everything from foreign policy to popular culture.
The Cold War was also a time of intense technological competition. The space race, perhaps its most dramatic manifestation, captivated the world as the United States and the Soviet Union raced to achieve supremacy in space exploration. From the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, in 1957, to the United States landing of astronauts on the moon in 1969, the space race showcased the incredible technological advancements of both nations.
But the Cold War was more than just a technological and ideological struggle. It was a time of espionage and covert operations, of propaganda and misinformation, as both sides sought to undermine and outmaneuver the other. The Berlin Wall, erected in 1961 to divide communist East Berlin from West Berlin, became a powerful symbol of the Cold War's division of the world. For nearly 3 decades, the wall stood as a concrete barrier, separating families, friends, and a nation.
The Cold War finally began to thaw in the 1980s with the rise of Mikhail Gorbachev in the Soviet Union. Gorbachev's policies of glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring, aimed to reform the Soviet system but ultimately contributed to its collapse. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 marked a symbolic end to the Cold War, as people from East and West Berlin came together to tear down the barrier that had divided them for so long.
The Cold War was a defining era of the 20th century, shaping the global political landscape and leaving an indelible mark on the world. It was a time of fear and uncertainty, but also of incredible technological advancement and ultimately of hope for a more peaceful future. For 28 years, the Berlin Wall stood as a stark symbol of division, a concrete barrier separating East and West Berlin, a city, and indeed a world, split in two. But on November 9th, 1989, an event unfolded that seemed almost unimaginable just days before. The Berlin Wall, once an impenetrable barrier, began to crumble.
It began with a press conference, a seemingly routine announcement by an East German official about new travel regulations. But confusion soon turned to astonishment as people realized the true implication of his words. East Germans would be allowed to cross into West Berlin freely for the first time in decades.
The news spread like wildfire, and soon thousands of East Berliners flocked to the wall demanding to cross. Border guards, caught off guard and overwhelmed by the sheer number of people, hesitated, unsure of how to react. Finally, as pressure mounted and the crowd swelled, the barriers were opened, and a wave of humanity surged through.
Scenes of jubilation erupted across Berlin as people from both sides of the wall embraced, tears of joy streaming down their faces. The world watched in amazement as the once imposing barrier, a symbol of oppression and division, was literally chipped away by the hands of ordinary people.
The fall of the Berlin Wall was a momentous occasion not just for Germany but for the world. It marked the symbolic end of the Cold War, a victory for freedom and democracy over oppression and division. The reunification of Germany, which followed in 1990, was a testament to the power of human aspiration, the enduring desire for unity and freedom.
The fall of the Berlin Wall sent shockwaves around the world, inspiring movements for democracy and freedom from Eastern Europe to South Africa. It was a reminder that even the most seemingly insurmountable barriers can be overcome, that change can happen, even in the face of seemingly impossible odds.
The legacy of the Berlin Wall lives on, not just in the physical remnants that remain as a reminder of a divided past, but in the hearts and minds of those who witnessed its fall, and in the countless others inspired by its message of hope and freedom. The events we've explored, from the fiery devastation of the Great Fire of London to the jubilant fall of the Berlin Wall, remind us that history is not merely a collection of dates and names, but a living tapestry woven from the choices and actions of countless individuals. These events, while often overshadowed by their immediate aftermath, marked some of the most transformative moments in history. Each one shows how a single event can reshape entire nations and even the world.